From Central Indiana's #1 news source, this is Fox 59 Tonight.
Hey, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Fox 59 Tonight. I'm Cameron Riddle. We appreciate you downloading our new smart TV app on your Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV, and now on Samsung. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss any of the conversations that we have every night at 8 o'clock right here on Fox 59 Tonight. On today's show, we'll be talking about education. Last week, we talked about private schools, and we went through the differences of a private school, a traditional school, a public school, an innovation school, all of these things. Because in the news right now in Indianapolis, there was a lot of talk about what the future of the schools in the Center Township area are going to look like. How are they going to function? What is the future of IPS? What is the future of charter schools? And as we have this conversation, you'll learn about all the different types, again, from private schools to innovation schools and traditional schools and charter schools. And today, we're going to tell you what a IPS innovation school is all about. To tell us about at least one that I would consider probably one of my favorite schools on the south side of near south side of Indianapolis is the Edison School of the Arts, and the CEO, the leader of that school, is here in our studio, Dr. Michelle Britton Watts. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Pull that microphone closer to you, or pull up closer to it. And tell us all about Edison School, 777 White River Parkway.
777 West White River Parkway, West Drive,
yes.
To be exact. We are a little hidden gem on the south side of downtown Indianapolis. We are a school that focuses, our model is on arts integration, where we use the skills and talents of our students to enhance their academics using the arts.
So you are a IPS innovation school, and a lot of people don't know what that means. Even IPS says our parents don't usually know what that means, that their kid goes to an innovation school. What is that?
Well, we are an in-network innovation school.
Okay.
That means that we are like a sister school of IPS. We partner with IPS, and we use one of their buildings for our school, and we have a partnership where trying to see how the easiest way to explain
It's not easy to explain.
It's not easy to explain, but basically we're just a sister school of IPS. They support us in a number of ways. We partner with them for various services, but we operate independent. We have our own autonomy to operate in the way in which we see is appropriate for our model.
I've heard people describe it as a hybrid, because you're almost a charter school, or you operate as a charter school, but and you have your own autonomy, but there are a lot of things that you have to get, or IPS has final say. Is that a fair description?
To a certain extent, we have our own school board
Okay.
at Edison, so we're governed by our school board, and of course, we follow the letter of the law when it comes to school operations and all of those things. IPS supports us by providing transportation, food service, those kinds of things that happen on the larger scale, and so when it comes to, curriculum, our arts integration model, we have the autonomy to determine what that looks like for our students.
What is the benefit of being an IPS innovation school?
Well, we get to do things differently. We get to, I won't say explore, but we know that the arts integration model is something that's very unique. And some people think about it like the old magnet models, when we used to have old magnet schools that focused on particular things, STEM, arts integration, those kinds of things. So we get to do things a little bit differently. We focused on the arts integration model, which we know benefits students in the long run with their academics and student outcomes. And so that allows us to integrate
Mm-hmm.
those aspects that we have of our program into the regular curriculum. And so I like to I often use the phrase, not the phrase, but
Mm-hmm.
I often use the scenario of a smoothie. So when you make a smoothie, you
Mm-hmm.
put the banana in, you might put a strawberry in, you might put even some protein powder in.
Mm-hmm.
But when you put those inside the blender,
Mm-hmm.
you see all of those things individually. But once you turn the blender on and blend it up,
Mm-hmm.
you can't pull out the banana, you can't pull out the strawberry. So
Mm-hmm.
everything is completely blended. And so that's what our model is. So when a student has an English class, for an example, when they go into the English class and they have an arts integration lesson
Mm-hmm.
that focuses on, say, learning about the different genres of music, they don't know by the time they finish that lesson if they've had a music lesson or if they've had an ELA lesson, an English
Mm-hmm.
language arts lesson. So it should be blended that tightly where the students are really engaged in the academics as well as the arts. And so that's where we really pride ourselves on supporting students with learning.
Now, the school is called Edison School of the Arts. Once upon a time, there were schools in Indianapolis over on the south side, Rosa Parks Edison Elementary and Jeremiah Gray Edison Elementary. Any relation?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I
Because I
don't
know there
believe
was a
so.
whole Edison curriculum.
No, there was no Edison curriculum. I
Okay.
think those were just named after, various people.
Okay. Okay. Didn't know if there was if they were all back in the day cousins or something like
No,
that.
not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay. So, which brings us into the point that the curriculum inside of the school, how much more of that do you have control over than you would at a traditional district school?
We have complete control over that. However, we do want to ensure that we are using, research-based curriculum. And oftentimes we are extended the opportunity to come alongside IPS with what they're doing. In fact, our math curriculum is the same as what they use. And so we have the freedom and flexibility to use what we think is best for our student population. But for the most part, we use quite a few items that are similar, resources that are similar.
Uh, People seem to think, and I talked to one on the show I did last week with Shaquan Eli. People get the terms all mixed up, and they think that one, a charter school is a private school,
Hmm.
or that an innovation school is a private school, meaning you get to turn away students and you don't have to do special needs. What is the case on that?
We're all public schools. We're just a different option of a public school. We don't get to turn any students away. Any students that comes to our doors, we have to enroll them. That's the law.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a public institution, that's what we do. I know that for the most part, these are options for families, so it's up to the families to find the best option
Mm-hmm.
of public school
Mm-hmm.
that they would like for their students to attend. And so that's how we approach that.
Do you have special education at your school?
Yes, we do. We have special education at our school. We have a special education director that supports those students that
Mm-hmm.
have those needs, and we have staff,
Mm-hmm.
special education teachers and staff.
Um, your school is K through 8.
Correct.
That's a lot of kids.
It's a lot of kids.
What's the population there?
We want to be around 600.
Okay.
Right now, we're a little under that. Enrollment's a little slow this year, but
Mm-hmm.
we feel like we're going to get there. But yeah, it's unique. We have our middle school on the second floor and
Mm-hmm.
our littles on the bottom floor,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a great mix of students. Our middle school kids are, they trying to be big kids,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time, they want to be the
Mm-hmm.
little kids. So it works out really well.
You have students that come from pretty much all sides of town to your school.
Hmm.
Where do they go after 8th grade?
We have a lot of our students go a little bit of everywhere. We've got some families that have moved outside of the IPS boundary
Mm-hmm.
and are in Pike, Warren, Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, there are lots of options, high school options for our students. We have a high school day where we invite the various public schools to come and showcase what they have to offer
Mm-hmm.
to give our students. Um, a view of what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
But we have students that go to IPS ran schools, and we have school students that attend other charter schools,
Mm-hmm.
high schools within the Marion County.
You're not too far from another school that I can see from the highway. I don't even know what the name of it is, but it's over off of Morris and Harding. I believe that's another IPS school.
Correct.
Don't know the name of it, but what is the dynamic, the atmosphere like when because you're talking about enrollment, you're talking about what's special about your school, but there are so many schools in that area.
Yeah.
How do you, I guess, how do you compete?
Well, we have a strong marketing plan. You may have seen our yard signs. We had billboards up last year where we promoted Edison, and so you know it feels like a competitive thing. But again, like I tell families, parents reserve the right to send their student where they feel like they're going to get the best education, and so we just take that for what it's worth. We try to promote the unique aspects of what Edison has to offer, and hopefully that inspires families to come and take a tour, ask questions, visit our website, those kinds of things to see what we have, and we just go from there. Um, it does feel like it's a competitive thing, and I guess to an extent it is.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we just try to promote what we have
Mm-hmm.
and go from there. And the kids that walk through the doors, we welcome them.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids that have been with us that may not feel like this is the best fit,
Mm-hmm.
there are plenty of options out there.
So I'm on your website. I know you have a new website
Hmm.
coming, but your current website, which you can find myips.org/Edison, is one way to get there. Among the things in your curriculum that I want to ask you about, you have English language arts, which, let me start there. How difficult or what is the task at hand with teaching students English for the population that you have? Indianapolis has a lot of different speakers. I know there's a lot of Nigerian on the west side and a lot of Chin on the south side, Haitian on the east side, Hispanic all the way through. But you still have to get everybody to pass the I read and I learn. How big of a challenge is that?
It's challenging, but we have a fantastic ESL staff that works tirelessly to support our students who don't come in with English proficiency. And we use the sheltered English model, PSYOP trained, or teachers are PSYOP trained. We try to provide as many resources and tools to our teachers to help with the language gap or barrier that some of our students come in with. But we do find that a lot of our students, especially in the K-3, they might come in with limited English proficiency, but just having conversations with them in English, a lot of them, their English really improves by the time they get into that second and third grade level.
Is it what is it like to um, what is it like to teach students these days? Because when I was in third grade, and I've talked to my third grade teacher since about this, I remember we took, at the time it was called iStep.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember having to take that. But I remember the things I remember from third grade was when we learned about cultures and we had different foods and we had Chinese food and Mexican food and all these different things. I remember learning about Dr. Martin Luther King. 9/11 actually happened, and that's tomorrow, but that happened when I was in third grade. And I remember discussing that and we wrote letters but my point is, what's memorable about school are not things that are on the test. She's like, so I've talked to her since, and said, all the things that you remember, that you love, that we spent time doing, we don't have time to do anymore because we have to teach to the test, and that's about all we get to do. So how do you balance teaching students whose English is not their first language, but also teaching them a blender of things in arts, and also trying to pass this test? That's a lot.
Yeah. I think we meet, we do, we not, I think we do meet our students where they are. And so, again, I think our model is a little bit different than, say, a traditional school where the focus is just on the reading, writing, and all of that. We really try to captivate our students with the arts and learn from them. We learn from their experiences, their culture, their heritage, and we embed that into what we're doing in the classroom. So it makes them feel a little bit more comfortable when they're learning things that are a bit challenging or things they don't quite understand. So we really work at embedding all of our students' cultural backgrounds into our lessons by, being culturally responsive to what's happening. But at the same time, still focusing on those academic standards, those Indiana standards that we know that they have to have, and then providing interventions to those students who don't master or show proficiency in specific areas through our MTSS process. So we have a lot of systems in place, processes in place to help our students reach their full potential.
Is that one of the things that would set you apart from being a traditional school, to where you'd have to do like my teacher says she does, and all we have time to do is teach to this test?
I don't think that it sets us apart. I think all schools do that to a certain extent. At least I would hope that they all do. We just happen to have a model where it's embedded in our daily operations, our practice. It's just who we are at Edison. We know that our students are going to get exposed daily to an art of some kind, and we're going to link that to either math or ELA or to reading. That's just a part of our DNA at Edison. So I think all schools do that. I think all schools are in the same position where we know how important the data is to, demonstrating to the legislature and demonstrating to the larger population that our students are learning and growing in our environments. So I don't think it's just it's anything different. We just use a different approach to getting to the end.
One of the things, so when we talk about the different types of schools, the innovation model, and I guess I also need to have somebody, because you talked about being an in-network school, I need to bring somebody who's an out-of-network school. So let's talk about the operations and the makeup of how all these schools work. So an innovation school, all these different terms are things we're hearing because everybody's trying to figure out what is the future of schools in the IPS district. And there's lots of different opinions that hey, they think everybody's trying to shut all the schools down and make everything a private school, or they're going to convert all the schools to be a charter school like things are in New Orleans. Or some believe that there's a world where IPS and these charters can coexist. Nobody has a magic glass ball, but what do you think the future is?
Now, you would ask me that question, wouldn't you? I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that we have students who are parents and students who are depending on us to be there for them, whatever that looks like. And as an educator who has been in this game for a while, it's very interesting to see how things have evolved. And I would just hope that those people who are in those decision-making positions would keep the students' welfare at the forefront of any decision that is being made. And that's my response to that question.
Like I said, there's a lot happening, and things moving and shaking. Is there so when you in these conversations, so like there's this thing, the ILEA, and they're trying to figure out what are we going to do? What do you, and from what I understand, because I've been to these meetings, the people who are up there may have some connection and background to a charter school or a traditional school, but they honestly do not know what you do on a daily basis. What do you want them to know about what you what a day is like running an innovation school?
I think they need to come and visit. I think for those people who are making those decisions and who are still unclear, there are plenty of opportunities to bring us to the table, in network, out of network folk to the table, and have some informed conversations with us. Instead of, I often use this term, people do things to us instead of with us. And so I think that more conversations need to be held with leaders so that they get a clearer picture of what this looks like for each of us and each of the models. And don't assume that they know, and don't assume that there's a one size fit all, and that what you hear in maybe a traditional charter is the same for in-network innovation or an out-of-network innovation school. So I think conversations need to be held with the leaders. Bring us to the table, have those conversations, see how how decisions are impacting what it is that we do on a daily basis.
Is there, so Dr. Johnson would be the person who speaks for the IPS traditional schools, but is there somebody who, or is there a coalition? Because there's all these different groups out there, but I get the sense that there's no true like voice or group who's like, I represent this type of school. And then sometimes the people who are the loudest in the room, of course, get the attention, but also, as you just said, may not be dividing up that, hey, these schools are all different models and run differently. Who speaks for you guys?
I mean, Dr. Johnson speaks for the entire district and specifically her direct managed schools. We do have a person that supports us at the district level in network and out of network schools, and so that person supports us with needs, daily needs, and those kinds of things. But you're correct. I don't think that there is a voice specifically for us. We have to do a lot of this on our own. And I think that is a gap in our ability to appear unified, because I don't think traditionally, for an example, all of the in-network leaders have gotten together and said, okay, what are you experiencing? How has this impacted you? There's just not enough of those conversations. We're kind of operating in isolation at certain times. And then when there's a big issue or a big concern that's impacting us, then we want to get together. Well, by that time we're behind the eight ball,
right?
So that is where I'm trying to get some other leaders on board with, we need to have these conversations so that we are one voice,
right?
If we're ever asked about X, Y, or Z. So yeah.
Well, and I don't know all the relationships that you may have, so I'm not trying to ask you to step on any toes or anything, but there's like groups like the Stanford Children and the Mind Trust, and there's a bunch of the different names. Do they? It seems like they get the most attention, and they've got connections down at the State House and whatnot. Are they a good advocate, or do they speak? Like, do they hit any of the points of what you guys need, or is that kind of like, they're kind of going for more of the charter schools, and then we're still kind of here?
That's a complex question, because we have partnered, Edison has partnered with the Mind Trust for various things. They do offer some funding. They do support some of the things that we do. So when it comes to additional resources, they have been a partner for us.
Mm-hmm.
There has been, on my side of things, since I've held this position, no conversations with any of the other organizations, Stand
Mm-hmm.
for Children or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. But I know that there are a voice in the community, and I know that they're are highly connected in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I know that they exist.
Mm-hmm. I guess what I'm seeing is as I have more and more conversations with different school leaders and of different school types, is that there isn't um, like true representation, or is anybody even asking, like, who speaks for the innovation schools? Who speaks for the charter schools? It just seems like the people who are the loudest in whatever form they come are the ones who people ask or listen to.
I would agree with that.
That's a problem. I see, because I thought at least, like the innovation schools, like that you guys would like talk and you kind of all know each other, and that's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, we talk.
Mm-hmm.
Again, each of us have our own model,
Mm-hmm.
so our needs are, slightly different,
Mm-hmm.
but there should be more of a unified front
Mm-hmm.
as relates to the larger picture
Mm-hmm.
of what the partnership looks like with IPS.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think we are moving in that direction ever so slightly, and that could be because of the landscape that we're in that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I've only been in this role for since January of 2024,
Okay.
so or 23. So 24,
Mm-hmm. Year and
and
a half.
yeah, I'm here now, and so those are some areas that I would like to see us, morph into
Mm-hmm.
as innovation leaders.
Are there too many schools?
I do think that Marion County is saturated. I do. That's just my personal opinion. I've said that since this whole innovation charter
Mm-hmm.
started happening about 10, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I do think we're saturated with options.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I do appreciate the options that
Mm-hmm.
we have for families to choose. But there are a lot of schools.
No matter what school district it is or school type, it could be a school in Perry Township, it could be a school in Washington Township, it could be a private school, it could be a charter, innovation. I feel like people are not admitting that schools have to have a certain amount of children to function. That is the budget. People don't want to talk about, it seems to me, schools needing to make a budget. And the more and more schools that get opened, you keep splintering these students and therefore not generating enough money to pay your teachers, to pay for lights to be on. That's my assumption. I'm just a guy who talks on TV and I drive a bus. But is that a conversation? Do you see it that way, that like we have to admit that you have to have a minimum amount of kids to operate?
Mm-hmm. And that is a true statement. Students, there is a certain amount that we get for students, and when you begin to um, spread or stretch the population in which you're trying to target, it does create, I won't say a gap, but it does create a budgetary
Mm-hmm.
constraint
Mm-hmm.
on daily operations
Mm-hmm.
when you don't meet your enrollment targets. And so that is a real thing, and that does impact budget overall.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where leaders have to, understand budget and finance when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to schools,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to um, be forward thinking
Mm-hmm.
and what the projections would look like,
Mm-hmm.
for future years, and those kinds of things. So that is a huge concern with so many options, and that's where that feel of that competitive piece that you were talking about earlier. That's where that comes in. Well, well, this kid was with me, this student was with me last year. Now they're over here. Well, why did they go over there? And, why didn't they stay with us? And again, those are options that, decisions that families, have to make on their own. But that does begin to weigh on finances for the school.
Have you felt the impact yet of the Senate Bill 1, which cut everybody's funding from fire departments, police departments, to mayor's offices, to schools? Are you feeling that yet?
Yeah, I think we're feeling it in certain ways. Not anything directly, but, holistically, especially, with the larger district. I think that we'll really see the true implications of this probably after the first of the year. Yeah.
Obviously, the goal for any operation would be to maintain the same level of service that you started the school year out with, and of course not have to lay anybody off or anything like that. So I know you have that in the background, but you're also trying to gain kids. How is it gaining teachers? Is that still hard?
Yes, we are still in the middle of a teacher shortage. And when you have a model like the arts integration model, you want to make sure that the teachers that you do hire, we're not saying that they have to come to us with the arts integration background, but they do need to be willing to learn that because of the school model. And so finding people who are open to not only have to learn the curriculum, but have to learn your instructional model, that can be a challenge at times. And so when we interview teachers, we're very forthright in stating, this is who we are. Is this something that you feel you can take on the responsibility of learning, because we provide the training for the teachers, of course. We have some professional development. We also have conferences that we send teachers to sharpen those skills, but they have to be willing to take on that. And I think most teachers, especially our newer teachers who are just graduating from college, understand that it's more than just teaching the reading and the writing and the math daily. They understand that there has to be a hook in some way
back to the arts.
And they understand that it's not going to be easy, but if you provide them with the support that they need, they're more willing to embrace that and stick around a little bit longer. So when we are hiring teachers at Edison, that's the conversation that we have with them. We're very upfront about that. And we've had some teachers who said, well, I don't think that this is what I want. I want to, something more traditional. And we value that and we honor that, and we know that that's not the best fit. But I will say that most of the teachers that we've interviewed and hired, they're really excited about it because they reflect on their experiences in school and how maybe a music teacher or an art teacher inspired them with their creativity, and they want to be a part of that.
We talked about the competition for kids, but when you have all these schools, not just in IPS, but there are 11 school districts in Marion County alone, you got to compete with all of these teachers. Yeah. First, are you hiring at your school? Are you hiring?
Well, we're full right now.
You're full. Good.
Yeah, we're fully staffed, which is exciting.
Okay.
So we don't have any teacher openings at this time.
And so if a teacher wants to interview, if there was an opening and they wanted to work at Edison, they're applying through Edison, not IPS.
Correct.
Okay. So you get the autonomy of who you hire.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. We do use the Nimble system that they use to post positions. We have posted on our positions on Indeed. We use various recruiting tools like that. And so, they would just apply, and we would pull their application and interview them and go from there.
When is a good time to start looking for a teaching job or a job in a school? Is it the spring for the next school year?
I like to start right after or right before spring break. If I know that I'm going to have, like, for an example, we had a teacher that retired,
Mm-hmm.
a phenomenal teacher that retired from our first grade.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that we had to have find somebody early, a rock star that would just come in and kind of fill that void for us. So we started as soon as she gave us her notice
Mm-hmm.
that she was going to be retiring at the end of the year, and we were able to fill that spot by mid-June.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for us, the earlier the better. And then, of course, we tapped into some of the universities. We've got some great first-year kindergarten teachers this year that are going to be dynamic as
Mm-hmm.
they progress through their teaching career. So, yeah, we try to start in the spring,
Mm-hmm. Is that
and I think most schools do, to that extent, if they
mm-hmm.
know they're going to have vacancies.
Mm-hmm. um one of the, I would say, misconception, because me answering part of my own question is I know all schools do this, because I have had an offer to be a teacher at a traditional school in Indianapolis because I have a bachelor's degree
Hmm.
and I could get an emergency teacher's license to teach.
Hmm.
But one of the things I hear people say is all charter schools and all these schools are hiring all these unlicensed teachers. Can you explain if that's a thing and when that may be a thing that schools have to hire somebody who does not have a teaching license?
It is a thing, um, but I believe that most schools work really hard to find licensed people first, and we
Mm-hmm.
try to use the emergency permit status as a last resort. Um, we're obligated to have a certain percentage of licensed teachers
Mm-hmm.
on staff, and that's what we go for. And naturally, you want the most qualified teachers in front of students.
Right.
But there are some situations where it's just hard to find
Mm-hmm.
someone, and you do resort to, finding someone that has a bachelor's degree. And when we do that, we try to find someone that has a bachelor's degree in that specific
Right.
area
Right.
to get them the emergency permit, and then they agree to enroll in a program
Mm-hmm.
where a teacher education program where they can obtain their full licensure as a teacher. So it is a thing. There are a lot of schools that have to use that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I had to use it
Mm-hmm.
for specific things, but for the most part, this year we were really lucky in the vacancies that we did have, that we did find some new teachers that are fully licensed.
Well, because there was a discussion at one point about me, because I work in media and I have a bachelor's degree in such, to teach a high school
Hmm.
media class.
Hmm.
But what people, all they hear is the emergency teacher's license. They don't hear the part that I was talking about and that you just mentioned, which is there's a process to get a teacher's license while having the emergency teacher's
Correct,
license.
correct. There's tons of programs out there now where um, teachers can or people can move in that direction if they're on emergency permit
Mm-hmm.
um, to obtain their full licensure. And at the high school level, of course, we've got the pathways, graduation pathways, where students have to have a pathway in order to graduate from high school. And, somebody in your field, there's a lot of schools with the mass
Right.
media where your a practical work experience
Mm-hmm.
could actually heighten a
Mm-hmm.
class like that with your experience and background. Um, so yes, there is a process.
Um, Slightly in a different direction, I want to ask you about parents. And how long have you been in education?
30, 33 years.
I would imagine you've seen a lot of change
Hmm.
in that 30 years. Um, are has What I hear from teachers and school administrators is that this job has only gotten harder. And I know this isn't the case for your parents, because I'm sure you have all fantastic parents.
We do.
But um, do we've heard parents not showing up to schools, and they don't volunteer, and they don't do back to school night, and parents have no idea who their kids' teachers are. And I had the mom who was at all the things and met all the teachers and all that. Is that just internet talk, or is that also a thing where um, I'm just hearing a lot of administrators and teachers say we just kind of feel like we're on our own more than we used to be?
Mhm. Times have changed, people have changed. I do think that the parent involvement piece is not what it used to be, or at least when I grew up and when
Mm-hmm.
you grew up. I think that due to a number of societal ills and situations, that families um, have a different focus. I
Mm-hmm.
won't say, well, yeah, different focus. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's more on, making ends meet and
Mm-hmm.
working and
Mm-hmm.
those kinds of things. But every family that sends their students to school are sending their best and brightest to us.
Mm-hmm.
And they want them to have great experiences. They want them to be in a safe environment. So, whatever that looks like for that parent is what it looks like. And it's just our job as educators to embrace that
Mm-hmm.
and work alongside and come alongside those families who might be struggling in other areas, who cannot be as visible, but they're engaged in the best way that they know how.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we try to provide opportunities for families to get engaged on the academic side. We provide opportunities for them to get engaged, on the fun side of
Mm-hmm.
things. With our model, of course, we have productions, we have performances.
Mm-hmm.
Families become engaged in that. So we try to meet them where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, back to your original point, I think that families are different because the structures are a little bit
Mm-hmm.
different. The needs are different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and parents are doing the best that they can with what they have.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's why we are the entities that we are.
Mm-hmm.
We are there to support them, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever that looks like. But I don't think that any family sends their student to school to not be engaged in the
Mm-hmm.
process.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times I find that the families that are not as engaged, or um, the social media would say, or those families that um, don't want to become involved in schools, is because they often had bad experiences
Mm-hmm.
as students in
Mm-hmm.
schools.
Mm-hmm.
And so they bring a lot of that baggage
Mm-hmm.
into their interactions with their
Mm-hmm.
child's
Mm-hmm.
school. And so when we recognize that, when we're talking with families or bring them in for conferences and things like that, if we find or we know that that's been their experience,
Mm-hmm.
we try everything within, our realm of responsibility to kind of change that so that they understand that we want their child's experience to be
Mm-hmm.
different.
Well, it's good to hear that you have opportunities for parents to be involved, and you invite parents. You guys need volunteers. Do schools still need
Yeah,
volunteers?
we still need volunteers. We go through the IPS volunteer screening process. So
Mm-hmm.
there's 3 tiers to parent involvement,
Mm-hmm.
or parent volunteers, and they can go to the IPS website to apply to do
Mm-hmm.
that. But yes, we still have volunteers for field trips,
Mm-hmm.
to come in and help out in classrooms, various things. So
Mm-hmm.
we probably are working with this year probably about 45 families or parents that come in
Mm-hmm.
and volunteer over the course, of the year.
Mm-hmm. Just about out of time, but as we were talking, I was thinking, just wanted to ask you some questions about the structure, because as I'm paying attention in these ILEA meetings, so I know what people are talking about. As an innovation school, do you have to pay your own light bill?
We do not.
Okay, IPS pays that.
Correct.
Do you have to pay IPS for that light bill?
We do not.
Okay. So it's their
Their building.
building.
It's an in-kind service that they're
Okay.
providing to us.
Okay.
Yes.
So lunches is in kind.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's funded through the federal government, so that's a
Mm-hmm.
free service.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the students who go to your school, while you are almost your own entity with its own school board, they also count as IPS students.
Correct.
So they count as part of enrollment. And so so all the phones and internet, computers, that's IPS's equipment?
It's IPS equipment, but there is a fee for some of that. That we do have to. It's a service that we do have to pay for.
So it kind of depends on what the item is.
Yes.
There is no blanket
No,
of
no,
anything, it
no.
sounds like.
Yes, they have a service catalog that we can choose options to, we can choose from to support us.
So you could say, I'm going to get, I just pick up something. I could I could pay IPS for phone service or internet service, or I could go get it myself through AT&T because I can get a better deal or something.
Kind of.
And internet maybe not be the best example,
Yeah.
but that
Yeah.
situation, because it's IPS, IT, and all that. What are things that, as an innovation school, that make you more like a charter school where you have to pay for it yourself?
That make me more like a charter school that we would have to pay for. Well, I mean, I can use this as an example, transportation right now. With the new zoning that IPS has started this year, full-fledged, we only provide transportation to zones 3 and 4 through IPS
IPS.
zoning.
Mhm.
And so I had to purchase supplemental transportation to pick up kiddos that were in zone 1 and 2 that still wanted to attend Edison, since that service is no longer available. So the flexibility to do that is something that I was able to do under this agreement.
But otherwise, the transportation that you get from IPS for zones 3 and 4 is in kind.
Correct.
Okay. So for them, so there's not a whole lot of cash being exchanged between the schools and IPS. There may be it sounds more like a pass down, and you kind of get whatever's left.
It's a little bit more complicated than that.
Okay.
It's a little bit more complicated than that.
Okay.
But there are some situations where that would apply.
Okay. So what I've learned talking to you is, so far it seems like the IPS innovation setup would be the most complex, of having talked to someone at a private school, and then knowing that a charter school is its own unit. This would seem the most complicated to learn, and then probably have to run, which that's the part you're doing. What do you want people to know, or what would you invite people to do as they try to figure out what the future is, and what are innovation schools, and what are they getting, or what are they taking? What would you want people to walk away and understand with?
I would like people to walk away and understand that although the complexities of this world, charter world, innovation world, exist, that the partnership between in-network and out-of-network innovation schools is a valuable opportunity for students and families. It gives them the freedom and flexibility to choose what they feel is best for their student. And naturally, with any type of partnership and agreement, you've got bumps in the road. That, there are some of those things. But we have to be willing to come to the table and have hard conversations, transparent conversations about the implications and the impact of decisions that are being made, and how that impacts our students, so they're not collateral damage in the decisions that people make, and that true conversations need to be held as we explore this landscape and work within this landscape that we're given. And so and that the models that are out there are all unique. They're all valuable, and we just need to just continue to work together and find a happy medium where we can all coexist and support the community. So I mean, I would say that.
I also hear you more than once. You've made the distinction between an in-network school and an out-of-network
Mm-hmm.
school when we talk
Mm-hmm.
about innovation schools. So I know there's even in the out-of-network schools are charter schools that have opted into some services but operate completely on their own from IPS, and then those students also then get to count as part of the IPS population.
Correct.
But as I'm sure you could talk for a whole long time about, there's a lot of differences in how you operate versus how they operate.
Correct.
And they really, while we say they're innovation schools, they're also just two totally separate things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I agree.
So what I walk away from talking to you from is that all these schools are getting lumped into one, and they are all very different. And I don't think I hear enough from the people representing these individual types of schools. Because I wouldn't at all say that someone who is a independent, non-IPS innovation school faces the same daily challenges and obstacles that you do as an innovation school, in or out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I hope that you're able to get some of your peers to get together
Yeah.
and talk
Yeah.
proactively.
Mm-hmm.
Because from talking to you, I think more people need to do what you're doing and talk
Yes.
and explain what's
Yes.
going on. Okay. As somebody once said, closed mouths don't get fed.
That's right.
Dr. Britton Watts, what's the website for the school?
Right now, they can go through the IPS website. So it's myips.org/Edison School.
There you go. I got it there on the screen. 777 West White River Parkway, South Drive. Yes. Over across from where Elanco is going.
Yes, one of our wonderful partners.
Yes, not too far from the zoo. You got a great view of the river too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Fox 59 Tonight. Dr. Watts, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, more Fox 59 Tonight's coming your way on another night at 8 o'clock. I'll talk to you on the radio on Sunday morning on 106.7 WTLC and Hot 100.9 from our radio show, Open Lines, where you also get to be part of that conversation when you call in on our live line. We'll see you on Fox 59 throughout the rest of the week. We'll see you back here on another night at 8 o'clock.